I think Pedro had the first read only. He has a coverage issue. He'll be out for a while. If anyone needs anything, go to the coverage issue, or I guess we'll go find Annabelle. Amy's got the next one, which is also read only. She'll also be out. And then Matt, let us know about the last read only, which is there's a new help code review label. I think this is a new support process. I had seen it before where they like, instead of coming into a Slack channel asking for something, they now create an issue and tag us to ask for something. I guess we'll see how this goes. Yeah, I subscribe to the label and we'll just see. Fourth is a sort of read only because now this is sort of picked up. So I'll just blaze through this one too, which is the triaging of bugs older than 3 years. It seemed like it had slowed down, and I guess that's maybe cyclical with like the milestone. Like maybe people did it at the beginning of the milestone, and then towards the end we trailed off. But over the last week or week and a half, it seems like a bunch more issues have been checked off the list. So I think progress is going well. I think we've got this all of 15.5 and the first couple of weeks of 15.6 to get through a lot of the list, and we're probably we're over halfway there. So yeah, I think it's good progress so far. And then 5 is sort of the first of the big discussions, and I want to plant this idea because if we're going to do something in Q4, we need to start discussing it now. And so performance is coming back around in sort of various ways to us, I think. There's nothing as direct as we get as we had sort of the last time we looked at this effort, but there's a lot of, I think, little things. Virtual scrolling is starting to feel like it's degraded in some ways, in some use cases that makes it not a great experience. And then just general usability and focus. And so I don't know what's feasible for Q4. I actually don't think I want to put something on the books that's like, oh, we're going to accomplish X, Y, Z. But I think we should spend a significant amount of time researching and potentially implementing in Q4, if that makes more sense. Like if we're gonna do something in Q4, what are the research paths we need, and like how much space do we need to allow for those research paths in terms of like engineering effort? I say that also knowing that like we'll likely have some of the restructuring effort landing in Q4 that we'll need to start working on as that comes out of research and design. And so like there is a work stream that also will be happening that's pretty significant. And Q4 is tough because people go on lots more holidays than they normally do too. So like we're sort of on capacity. So it might be a good researchy time. But that's my start of like, what do we need to do now to be in a position to like have those things in Q4, and like how much space should we be making in 15.5? There's not really space to be made, but like early 15.6 to like give people time to think about these ideas so that when they come to Q4, they can actually spend time researching a particular area. And then how do we coordinate that across front end and back end to make sure that we're not doing, not that the last effort wasn't great, but that we're not doing like a front end focused thing and a back end focused thing. Like how do we get a better, like, here's some things we think we can do in the back end that we need the front end to like help support us on, or the other way, like the front end, we could do X, Y, and Z if we had this from the back end. Like how do we sort of make sure that we're thinking about both sides of the puzzle as we go into it? And then I will stop now.
That's great. Thanks for mentioning. I'll briefly summarize what Stanislav wrote. He has some ideas about writing, working on a more complete concept for streaming. His initial concept for streaming on the front end, it's streaming rendering components on the front end. I was under the impression that there's a couple of blockers in terms of like compatibility with some components. You might want to dig around to see, do we have a clear path for implementation, or is there any hurdles? He says that he also tried this on the blame page, and it works really well with Rails server-side rendering. He also said he thinks we can get past most of the scrolling issues caused by the virtual scrolling that he just mentioned by implementing the pinned file proposal. We'll also need this if we go to streaming route. So there's a couple of discussion there for the navigation on that issue with possible solutions. That's what Stanislav wrote. Do we have server-side rendering? Well, I think he means using Rails templates, not JavaScript server-side rendering with Rails. We do have a proof of concept. Let me try to dig that down. We have a proof of concept that Phil wrote years ago, literally years ago, with Hypernova and using Vue server-side rendered. Yes, I'm writing it down. It's 2 years ago. But there's some hurdles in terms of like shipping that because that requires a node server. The one that Stanislav is talking about doesn't require a node server, but it's more limited. It's basically like Rails code, server-side rendering, the parts that we need. I think, but I can help him and support him. I have a one-on-one with him tomorrow. I can drill deep in, hear what he means, and try to find a way forward. See if we're blocked or anything. But yeah, I think you're right on the money about us trying to talk about this as soon as possible so we can have a clear picture of what we should build. Yeah, there's a couple of discussions from other groups that I want to get on top of now that I'm back. I heard some things about people leveraging IndexedDB. Remember that research that Thomas Randolph did a couple of years ago or a couple of months ago about IndexedDB, client-side caching, more structured. There's some possibility that that can be reused to have good impact on data loading and like immediately getting all the data rendered. But there's still a couple of questions. So we're definitely going to start the discussion there. I wanted to put a point, but I see that Ben has there. So Ben, take the floor while I write my point, please.
Sure, just want people to think about if they want research support for any of this. If you come up with a solution and you want to validate it or make sure that the problem that you are working on is properly framed, let me know or start thinking about it so that when the next quarter's research planning starts, I have it in my list. Happy to help.
Sure. Thanks. From my perspective, I think that once we have POCs and everything, definitely the user research will be part of validation of that to make sure that we don't miss anything. But the part of the restructuring of the merge request definitely will have its own validation. I think that's part of the validation of the concepts. For the implementation, I don't think we'll heavily need it ahead of time, preemptive research, or like once we build it, let's take it for a spin and see how it goes. But maybe even if we have a couple of concepts, we might want to run those, do some testing. So we'll keep you in the loop and think of you if we ever feel the need, I guess. Yeah, thanks, man. Cool.
Yeah, I was just
my
going
point-
to add on that. Sorry, I was just going to add that, yeah, I agree with what you said, Andre, and maybe one possibility is to have some of these enhancements behind feature flag, or in some way that we can then ask, even if it is internal users, to test drive either on GitLab.com or in another instance with a large merge request or something like that, just to get people's feedback and impression from real usage. So, but yeah, it will depend, I guess, on what we do and how well we can test it with the fewest resources possible. But I think, yeah, putting this in the hands of more people that are outside of this group before we release something, I think that would be great.
Thanks, Pedro. Definitely makes sense. Moving on to my point, if nobody has any other sub points here. Cool. So we've talked about this in the past, and I always feel like we make some advancements on the calls, and then kind of just lingers to have any movement, or we don't have any movement for a while. And I've been thinking whether, well, we just had the experience of the working group for the merge request report widgets. I'm not proposing we set up a working group. That's not what I mean. But that repeating weekly discussions were really productive. So I think we can try, or I was wondering if it would be useful to have like set up a call with aimed at ICs to discuss this potential POC concepts, invite the backend ICs, invite the front end ICs, and have them go at it and see what they come up with as a ground up idea brainstorming exercise. So I could set that up if nobody has any objections. I know they will take a bit of time from there, but I'm thinking about 30 minutes to an hour each week in the afternoon of Europe, so we can have the US people join. And we can see if nobody shows up after 2 weeks, we can call it off. But when I was filling in for Matt, I heard some ideas on the back end with the 101s. There's some ideas on the front end. I think we need to glue them together. Yeah. So Kai, what do you think, Matt?
I'll let Kai verbalize his point. I think
Sure.
I think I have the same point as him, but I'll let him explain first.
Yeah, I think I'm from like I'd say I think this is a good idea. I think it relates to potentially point 6 about trying to figure out how we increase collaboration on the team anyways. I think the challenge is probably overlap of team members and whether or not people have enough interest and time to like set aside half an hour every week, which I don't know if like that on top of what we already have planned is like feasible. And I know 2 of the backend engineers are in APAC. So like if you do late EMEA, then you can't pick up 2 of the backend engineers. And if you do early EMEA, then you can't pick up the engineers in the US. So I think like that it could be that we needed like 2 of them, which may just mean that like doing something sync is not necessarily appropriate yet. And maybe we should do that like in Q4, but I don't know. Worth a shot either way, I think we can try it, but just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah, I don't want to exclude the APAC backend team, which is Patrick and David, because I think they would probably have a lot to add to this conversation. But I think we do. I think they would be happy to have a synchronous call if we can find a time that works. And I think, I don't think capacity for a half-hour meeting or whatever it is should be a problem, at least on the back end.
Okay, no, that definitely makes sense. I think you're right. I think you're onto something, Kai, there, that maybe starting right away with only sync might not be the best way, but we can think of a format where we give a heads up when we ask people to add some crazy ideas in the upcoming days to the meeting, and then have an alternate schedule. Try to find something that is inclusive for everybody. Yeah, we'll give it a shot. See if that will get it off. We'll get the ideas off the ground in time for Q4. If not, we'll kill it. Find some other way to collaborate. Yeah,
is the idea to include, or was your original idea to only include ICs from our group or also ICs from other groups? The reason I'm asking is because I think that ideally we would include ICs from other groups as well. Not everyone, of course, because we have to control the amount of feedback that we get. But I'm sure that there are a lot of great people around the company that have had great experience with performance issues, either outside of GitLab or in GitLab itself. So I think just keeping this within our group is I think it's a missed opportunity in terms of finding ideas.
Sure.
Of course, then our ICs in code review have the best knowledge in terms of what's more feasible right now. But I think in terms of brainstorming, ideally including ICs from other groups.
Yeah, agreed. I think we can focus the target within our groups for starters, but open it up for everybody who wants to join. We can circulate that to a couple of people. I can think about people from Plan, Dennis from Editor, a couple of people like that.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Back
Yeah.
and probably other people like that. So we'll get the center or the focus on our team, but open it for everybody who wants to join. Put it on front end calendars. Put it on all those sort of things to make it visible for everybody who wants to join. Make it clear that it's open for everybody who wants to join. We're not going to be requesting feedback through an issue right now, just because that would be a very like a swarm of feedback without a lot of knowledge of what we're trying to do. But yes, we'll include that in the setup. I'll get something set up for next week, and we'll get it going. Thanks.
I think that makes sense. And in terms of how people participate, I think at least for me, when doing these things, a mix of async and sync is the best to give everyone an equal opportunity to participate. And doing these brainstorming and affinity grouping and things like that in Mural or a similar tool is sometimes more effective than trying to do that inside of GitLab. And then of course we can take the discussions, more detailed discussions, to GitLab itself. But yeah, I just wanted to suggest using something like that for people to contribute async, kind of a board tool. And yeah, there are many different ways to approach this to be the most effective and get out the most of collaboration. I'm sure that Ben and Marcel and Annabelle can help you set that up to make sure that you get the best out of that collaboration.
Okay. Did you suggest any tool in specific,
I'll be off.
like Mural or?
Sorry?
Did you suggest any tool in specific? I might have missed it. Like Mural?
Yeah, Mural. Mural. We have seats in Mural, so we can use that internally. It's usually our go-to tool for this kind of collaboration. Yeah, so you can use that.
Okay. I'll consider it. Right. Thank you. Okay, you have the next point.
Yeah, I think this one is sort of if people had comments they wanted to voice or discuss further, then outside of the issue, then I wanted to make sure there was space to do that. If no one has anything outside of what's already written in the issue, then I'll take a look at it later today and figure out what the next steps are.
Nothing additional, but I like this idea. Anything we can do to improve, collaboration and sense of belonging on the team, I think is welcome. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I just skimmed through it and it sounds like a good idea to iterate. We've been having the same format for quite a while, and participation has been low. So yeah, let's spice things up. I'll thumbs up the issue right now.
Seven's good, so we'll I think that's everything on the agenda, and so I'll go ahead and stop the recording there.